Welcome back to another Film Geek movie review. Today, after the old day job, I am off to check out the new horror film, Tarot. So what's the story of this film? Well, it tells the story of a group of friends who get a hold of this old tarot card deck. And guess what they do? They ignore all the rules that you're supposed to follow with tarot cards and unlock some kind of curse. Yep, it's one of them movies. It's a cursed item horror film. And guess what? It's PG-13. Yeah, okay. Now that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be bad. It just means it's not going to have all the gore and blood and guts that you would find in another film. It could still be a good movie. I'm not doubting it. It still can. It does seem to be a fairly, average type of storyline. We've seen this before. And then I guess the way they kind of spice this film up is that each one of the tarot cards, it shows the jester, and then it shows a jester showing up and chasing someone down, and then they say the hangman's noose, and they show a card with a hangman on it, and then it shows a girl running and she goes gay. So I think that everybody's death has something to do with the tarot cards, but I don't know. I guess we'll find out. So no judgment going into this. I just have zero expectations of this film, all right? So anyways, it is time for me to get out the door because I got to get to the old day job, and then I am off to check out Tarot. Welcome back, just getting home, and guys, well, the movie wasn't terrible, but then again, it wasn't all that great either. So let's get this started, shall we? We're going to get things started with the negatives, then move into the positives, to end the video on the ever so important high note. Negative-wise, the first thing I want to address is the terrible acting in this film. And what's irritating is that a lot of these actors that I've seen them in other things, I can't think of the names off the top of my head, sorry, but I have seen actors in this film and other things, and they've done a pretty good job. And in this film, it just seemed like everyone forgot how to act. It was like watching a high school play. Yeah, it was rough. Now, here's the thing. It's hard to tell if it was just lack of trying on the actor's part, or maybe it was because they had to deliver some of the corniest and worst dialogue I have heard in a long time. The first 20 minutes of this movie is nothing but introduction setup. I'm not messing around. The movie starts off with them getting the Airbnb where they find the tarot deck, and all of it goes down. And while they're doing there, this is something that it's, cursed horror objects in films annoy me a little bit anyways, because if you know something's bad and you do it anyways, it's like, what are you doing? It's better when they don't know what they're doing and then they unlock something and, chaos ensues. But in this case, it's a tarot deck. And so somebody in the group has to know how to do tarot cards, right? I did think of an idea that could have solved this problem, but anywho. So the friends sit down and she's like, she gets the tarot cards and she's all like, hey, and then by the way, this is in the trailer, so I'm not ruining anything. So she's like, it's really a bad idea to, use someone else's tarot cards. It's like bad mojo. And then she's just like, okay, who first? Who wants to go first? It barely takes convincing. So you're like, okay, well maybe this, she just is like, oh, I just dabble in tarot. That's a side thing. It's just a side. I don't really know that much about it. So you're like, oh, okay, all right, cool. Well, she doesn't know that much about it, so she maybe, she doesn't know that this could be taken seriously. Cool. So while she's doing one of her friends' readings, this person takes it with a grain of salt and is just all like, oh, whatever. Everybody's like a zodiac sign. I'm a Taurus. And then she gets like all offended and all. It's like, hey, tarot's life, man. Tarot's my thing. And I'm like, wait a minute, didn't you just say a second ago it's not that big of a deal? And so then the main character, so she just spends the rest of the movie just talking about how important tarot is to her. Man, if the tarot cards were so goddamn important to you and you know all this stuff about them, why in the hell did you do this? You knew bad things were going to happen. Why did you continue if you're so into something, if you believe in something that much, as the movie leads you to believe later on? Why would you have broken one of the biggest rules? So right there, the movie lost me. So the movie literally lost me in the first 20 minutes. So they do the whole thing, and then, boom, tarot. Did you just do a 20-minute long intro for the film, and then you put the title card up? Bro! I thought the acting was on high school level. I was just kind of blown away when that happened. I knew exactly what I was in for from that moment on. So, honestly, to be perfectly honest, those were the worst things that I could really find. They did irritate the hell out of me, but they're not god-awful. I can still see where people would really enjoy this movie, so let's get into the positives. The first thing I'm going to talk about is the makeup design. Now, each one of the tarot cards is a different creature, so everybody kind of gets their own creature design and own look. Some of the makeup is a little bit different than others, and there could have been some CGI used. There's a lot of dark and muddy areas in the film, so it was kind of hard to tell, but I'm positive in one scene particular on a bridge that they were using some CGI, but mostly it looked fairly practical with some decent, makeup effects. And this film is also a hard PG-13. I was fairly surprised with the amount of violence and gore that's in the film. I should say blood, not necessarily gore. There is one scene which I have to say was handled excellently with a kill, and during the scene you literally think that something horribly gruesome is happening in front of your eyes, but it's just the sounds and everything. It was like the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. We believe that it's just filled with blood and guts, but it really isn't. It's just that the movie makes you feel it. And in this film, yeah, same thing. The scene was executed wonderfully. Now, unfortunately, a lot of the scares in this movie are completely dependent on jump scares. And yeah, for someone who is a seasoned horror fan, you are definitely going to spot those jump scares coming from a mile away. But I kind of really feel like in this movie in particular, they were looking for a much younger audience for this film. And in that regards, if this is an introduction into horror for you, I don't think you're going to mind too awful much. The story itself isn't half bad. I did enjoy the concept over it all, the whole idea of the killer tarot card deck. I just didn't like the way it was executed. What they should have done, in my opinion, just my opinion, this is a bunch of Gen Z kids. The Gen Z kids are awfully good with their phones and all. Why didn't she just be like, well, I know a little bit about tarot, no big deal, and then just look it up on her phone, right? Just find instructions on how to do this on her phone. Not have the actual character say, hey, this is a bad idea, And I just, again, it dropped the ball for me in that, and that's why I keep bringing it up. So the creature design is actually pretty good. There are some decent, well-crafted scares, but if you are an experienced horror hound, you're not going to see them too awful frightening. All in all, guys, I think this is a decent little movie. It's a decent introduction into horror. I don't think that if you're a seasoned horror fan, there is much here for you whatsoever. It does have a decent concept, but other than that, the film really lacks a lot of substance. And I mean, it really lacks a lot of substance with just characterization, hero's journey, all that good stuff. Just really not in this film whatsoever, but it does have some very well-crafted scares. And I think younger audiences might enjoy it. Alright guys, well that's all I have for you today. Thanks again for checking out the Film Geek. Well, I'm going to do this. Forgot, yeah. this is probably a wait for streaming movie. Unless this is something, again, you fall in the demographic of the younger viewer, maybe this is something for you. But I think most people just catch it on Netflix, Shudder, or wherever. Alright, well, thanks again for checking out the Film Geek, guys. If you liked what you saw here today, go ahead and subscribe to the channel, ring that bell for notifications, and give me the old thumbs up so I know you like what you're seeing. And if there's one more thing you can do, folks, that is keep watching movies. You know I'm gonna. Oh, you're still here. Oh, yeah. There's an after credits in this movie, too. That's why I just did this, just to see who's watching. Alright! See you later, guys.